Hello and welcome to EnglishVibesHub, the channel where we help you improve your English skills and become more confident in your everyday conversations. I'm Emma, and I'm excited to be here today with Liam to talk about something really important for all of you who are either already working or looking to start your career: navigating English in the workplace. Today, we're focusing on common phrases and idioms that will help you succeed.
That's right, Emma. Mastering these phrases and idioms can make a huge difference in how well you communicate with your colleagues, understand your tasks, and even advance in your career. I'm looking forward to diving into this topic with you and our viewers. Let's start with something basic but very useful: to touch base. What does it mean to you, Emma, and how do you use it in a work context?
When we say to touch base, we mean to get in touch with someone, usually to discuss something briefly or to check in and see how things are going. For example, you might say, "Let's touch base on Friday to discuss the project's progress." It's a great way to ensure you're on the same page as your team or to follow up on tasks without needing a full meeting.
Exactly, and another phrase that's closely related is to be on the same page. This idiom means that everyone involved in a conversation or project has the same understanding or agreement about something. It's really useful for avoiding misunderstandings. For instance, after discussing the plan, we were all on the same page about how to proceed with the marketing campaign.
I love that one, Liam. Understanding these idioms can really help in meetings or when working on team projects. Another one that comes to mind is to brainstorm. This means to generate a lot of ideas, often in a group setting, without worrying about whether they are good or bad at first. The goal is just to come up with as many ideas as possible, and then refine them later.
Brainstorming is such a powerful tool for creativity and problem solving. It encourages an open and collaborative environment where everyone feels comfortable contributing. And it's a great example of how using the right English phrases can facilitate better communication and teamwork. Let's talk about to call it a day. This phrase means to stop what you're doing because it's late or you've decided you've done enough for now.
Yes, to call it a day is very useful, especially when you've been working hard and feel it's time to head home. It's a polite way to end your workday without implying that you're giving up on your tasks. For example, we've been working on this project for hours. Let's call it a day and finish it in the morning when we're fresh.
That makes sense. Using these phrases not only helps you sound more professional, but also helps you navigate different situations at work more effectively. I think it's time for us to explore more of these useful phrases and idioms in our next segment, don't you, Emma?
Absolutely, Liam. We've just scratched the surface, and there's so much more to discuss. Let's keep the conversation going and see how these phrases can be applied in real-life work scenarios.
One thing that's really interesting about English is how expressions can vary greatly depending on the context. For example, to pull someone's leg means to tease them in a playful way, but if you're not familiar with this idiom, it could be easily misunderstood.
That's a great point, Liam. Context is everything when it comes to understanding and using English phrases and idioms correctly. It's not just about knowing the definition, but also about knowing when and how to use them appropriately.
Exactly, and speaking of appropriate use, let's consider to give someone the cold shoulder. This means to deliberately ignore or show indifference to someone. It's an idiom that can be quite hurtful if used towards someone, so it's good to be aware of its implications.
Yes, being aware of the potential impact of our words is crucial in any form of communication, especially in a professional setting. Using idioms like to give someone the cold shoulder can significantly affect relationships at work, so it's essential to use them thoughtfully.
That's really insightful, Emma. The way we communicate at work can either build or damage our professional relationships. Let's think about to be in someone's shoes for a moment. This idiom means to imagine how someone else is feeling or to put yourself in their position.
I think to be in someone's shoes is a very empathetic phrase, Liam. It encourages us to consider other people's perspectives and feelings, which is vital for creating a harmonious and supportive work environment.
Empathy is key in any successful team or organization. Now, let's consider to think outside the box. This means to be creative and consider ideas that are not traditional or conventional.
I love that one, Liam. To think outside the box is all about innovation and finding new solutions to old problems. It's a mindset that can really benefit any workplace, encouraging employees to be more inventive and resourceful.
Innovation is what drives progress, after all, And in the workplace, being able to express your ideas clearly and creatively can make all the difference. Let's keep exploring these expressions and see how they can help our viewers in their professional journeys.
That sounds like a plan, Liam. We have so many more phrases and idioms to discuss, and I'm excited to hear from our viewers about which ones they find most useful or confusing.
Yes, and we'll also be looking at some common mistakes people make when using these expressions and how to avoid them. It's going to be a really informative and engaging conversation, I think.
Definitely. And as we continue, we'll delve into more complex scenarios and how these phrases can be applied in real-life situations, making it easier for our viewers to navigate their English communication challenges at work.
I'm looking forward to sharing more insights and examples with everyone. It's all about making English more accessible and useful for people in their daily professional lives.
Well, let's keep the conversation flowing then. We've got a lot to cover, and I'm sure our viewers are eager to learn more about how to improve their English skills for the workplace.
Absolutely, Emma. And remember, the more you practice using these phrases and idioms, the more natural they'll become. So, let's practice together and make English in the workplace a breeze for everyone.
That's a great attitude to have, Liam. Practice does make perfect, especially when it comes to language learning. Now, let's move on to some scenarios where these phrases might be particularly useful.
Sounds good to me, Emma. Let's get into some real-life examples and see how these expressions can help our viewers in their professional interactions.
I completely agree, Liam. Real-life examples are the best way to illustrate how these phrases can be used in everyday conversations at work. Let's start with to touch base. What does that mean to you?
For me, to touch base means to check in with someone, usually to discuss something specific or to make sure everything is going as planned. Like, if I'm working on a project and I want to make sure my team is on the same page, I might say, "Let's touch base on Friday to review our progress."
Exactly, and it's such a versatile phrase. You can use it to catch up with a colleague, to follow up on a task, or even to schedule a meeting. I've used it many times when I needed to clarify something with a client or to make sure we're meeting our deadlines.
That's a great point, Emma. And speaking of deadlines, have you ever had to work around a problem or an obstacle in your work? I mean, something that's causing a delay or a setback, but you still need to find a way to get the job done.
Oh, all the time. I think to work around something means to find an alternative solution or to adjust your approach when faced with a challenge. Like if a key team member is absent and you need to meet a deadline, you might need to work around their absence by reassigning tasks or adjusting the schedule.
Exactly, and it's not just about solving the immediate problem, but also about being proactive and anticipating potential issues. I recall a time when our team was working on a project, and we realized that one of the stakeholders was going to be unavailable for a critical meeting. So we had to work around that by scheduling an alternative meeting time and making sure everyone was informed.
I love that example, Liam. And it brings me to another phrase that's really useful in the workplace: to be on the same page. What do you think that means, and how can we use it in our conversations?
For me, to be on the same page means to have a shared understanding or to be in agreement about something. It's like when you're working on a team project and you want to make sure everyone is clear about their roles and responsibilities. You might say, "Let's make sure we're all on the same page before we move forward."
That's right, and it's not just about being in agreement, but also about being aware of each other's perspectives and expectations. I've found that when we take the time to ensure we're all on the same page, it can really help to prevent misunderstandings and miscommunications down the line.
Absolutely, and I think that's especially important when you're working with people from different cultural backgrounds or with different work styles. Being able to read between the lines and pick up on subtle cues can be really helpful in those situations.
I couldn't agree more, Liam. To read between the lines is such a valuable skill, especially in the workplace. It means to understand the underlying message or implication of what someone is saying, rather than just taking their words at face value.
Exactly, and it's not just about being perceptive, but also about being aware of the context and the relationships involved. Like, if a colleague is being evasive or vague about something, you might need to read between the lines to understand what's really going on.
That's a great example, Liam. And it reminds me of a time when I had to step up and take on a leadership role in a project. It was a bit challenging, but it was also a great opportunity to learn and grow.
Wow, that's impressive, Emma. To step up is such a great phrase because it means to take initiative and to accept new challenges. It's like when you see an opportunity to contribute or to make a positive impact, you step up and take it.
Exactly. And it's not just about personal growth, but also about being proactive and taking responsibility. When you step up, you're showing that you're committed to the team and to the project, and that you're willing to go the extra mile to achieve success.
I love that attitude, Emma, and I think it's especially important in the workplace, where we're often faced with unexpected challenges and opportunities. Being able to think on your feet and adapt to changing circumstances can be really valuable.
Absolutely, Liam. To think on your feet means to be able to respond quickly and effectively in a difficult or unexpected situation. It's like when you're in a meeting and someone throws you a curveball, you need to be able to think on your feet and come up with a response on the spot.
Exactly, and it's not just about being quick-witted, but also about being able to stay calm and focused under pressure. I've found that when I'm able to think on my feet, I'm more confident and more effective in my interactions with others.
That's so true, Liam. And I think it's really important to practice and develop that skill, especially in high-pressure situations. Okay, so let's do a role play to practice using some of these phrases in context.
Sounds like fun, Emma. Let's say we're colleagues working on a project together, and we need to discuss some challenges we're facing. I'll start by saying, "Hey Emma, can we touch base about the project timeline? I'm getting a bit concerned that we're falling behind."
Absolutely, Liam. I've been thinking the same thing. Let's take a closer look at the schedule and see if there's anything we can do to get back on track. Maybe we need to work around some of the obstacles that are causing delays.
That's a great idea, Emma, and I think it's also important that we're on the same page about our goals and objectives. Can we review the project scope and make sure we're all aligned?
Definitely, Liam. I'll send you the latest version of the project plan, and we can review it together. And if we need to make any adjustments, we can discuss them and come up with a plan to move forward.
Sounds good to me, Emma. And I think it's also important that we're able to read between the lines and pick up on any subtle cues or concerns that our team members may have.
Absolutely, Liam. Being able to read between the lines can really help us to build trust and rapport with our colleagues and to create a positive and supportive work environment.
I couldn't agree more, Emma. Okay, so let's keep practicing and see how we can use these phrases in different contexts. Maybe we can come up with some scenarios that are a bit more challenging or unexpected.
That's a great idea, Liam. And I think it's also important that we're able to think on our feet and adapt to changing circumstances. Let's try to come up with some scenarios that will really test our skills and our ability to communicate effectively.
All right, Emma, let's give it a try. And remember, the goal is to be natural and spontaneous, and to use the phrases in a way that feels authentic and conversational.
Got it, Liam. Let's do this. And don't worry if we make mistakes, it's all part of the learning process, and it's a great way to improve our communication skills.
Exactly, Emma. And I think that's one of the most important things we can take away from this conversation, the importance of practice, and the value of being able to communicate effectively in the workplace.
Well said, Liam. And I think we've just scratched the surface of this topic. There are so many more phrases and idioms to explore, and so many more scenarios to practice. Let's keep the conversation going and see where it takes us. I completely agree, Liam, and I think it's time for us to dive deeper into some of these phrases and idioms that can really make a difference in the workplace. Let's talk about touch base, for instance. What does that mean to you? And how do you think our listeners can use it effectively?
Touch base is a great one, Emma. It essentially means to get in touch with someone, usually to discuss something or to check in on a project's progress. For example, you might say, "Let's touch base on Friday to see how the marketing campaign is going." It's a very casual and friendly way to suggest a meeting or a call.
Exactly, and it's so versatile. You can use it in emails, in person, or even over the phone. Another phrase that I think is really useful is think outside the box. This idiom encourages creativity and thinking beyond the usual solutions. Can you think of a time when you had to think outside the box, Liam?
Actually, yes. In my previous role, we were facing a challenge with meeting a tight deadline. Instead of the usual approach, I suggested we work remotely and use collaborative tools to speed up the process. It was a bit unconventional, but it worked out really well. That's a great example of thinking outside the box, isn't it?
That's a fantastic example, Liam. And it just goes to show how these idioms and phrases can be applied in real-life situations. Another one that's really common is give someone the green light. This means to give someone permission to proceed with a project or an idea. Have you ever given someone the green light, or had it given to you?
Yes, I have. When I was proposing a new project, my supervisor gave me the green light after reviewing the proposal. It was a great feeling knowing that I had the support and could move forward. It's such a positive phrase, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And finally, let's talk about burn the midnight oil. This means to work late into the night, often to meet a deadline. While it's not always the healthiest habit, sometimes it's necessary. I've certainly burned the midnight oil many times, especially when working on projects with tight deadlines. How about you, Liam?
Too many times to count, Emma, but it's all part of the job sometimes. I think what's important is finding a balance and not making it a regular habit. These phrases and idioms we've discussed today are just the tip of the iceberg, and I hope our listeners have found them as useful as we have.
I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I'm so grateful to all our listeners for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this conversation and found it helpful, please do like this video and subscribe to our channel, EnglishVibesHub, for more content on improving your English skills and navigating the English language in various contexts.
And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay updated on our latest episodes. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to catching up with you in our next video on EnglishVibesHub.